Megaton Sword is a heavy metal band from Winterthur, Switzerland, and Might and Power is their second full-length album. And this is a different one. It is slower, a little bit of an expansion upon what they did before in terms of starting to step into a more full-range traditional heavy metal oeuvre, and that includes ballads. It includes a little bit of heavy rock influence, and a lot of this is built around the lead vocalist Ozzy the Unchained's need to express more personality in this band, and the way to do that traditionally in heavy metal is to slow it down, and especially 80s metal, and dig into the self and tell a story, get a narrative out there. And for a lot of people, this will be off-putting, especially if your interest lies more in speed metal, because this is more of a heavy rock influenced record, and one that maybe it's a little bit more love it or hate it based on the vocal performances. I think when I heard the first single, Power, which you would have heard at the start of, opening of this review, I was mesmerized by just how different it was than what he'd done before on Blood Hails Steel, Steel Hails Fire a couple of years ago. It was a really strong record, but it didn't have that thing that stuck in my head. It had the ballad, it had a lot of these pieces that we get on this album, but this album kind of goes for it and puts all their energy into the first four songs. And the big one here for me and my taste is, of course, one of the faster paced pieces, Iron Plains. So we'll get right to that moment, and that's kind of like what I like about this album. So, that's a great song. I think Iron Plains is the peak of the album, along with, the adjacent four songs on the first half. It gets a little bit punk inspired. It gets very epic heavy metal. There's a lot going on there. And then we get to the second side of the album, and it's time for uh, a song that isn't fully a ballad, but it definitely slows down. And now, a fan of epic heavy metal will get this moment. They'll understand that it needs to build, and it does get somewhere. But it takes a while, and the energy of the album is gone. The momentum is kind of gone, and it doesn't really come back. There's, I think they really needed to switch Might, the single that comes much later in the album. That needed to just start side B, just so we're having more of a transition and not just falling into the depths there. So the big thing here, and I think it'll already have been overstated by the time this video gets published, is that Babe Eternal is kind of the moment where they went a little bit too far with the piano addled ballad. And I'm not gonna. I've heard much more crazy, goofy shit on heavy metal albums. Not a big deal. I just don't like it, and if it's rare that I like an album this much, but still have to say, well, I've got to chop one of its limbs off because it's got this Babe Eternal problem at the end. And yeah, I don't. Anyway, um, it does come with a moderately high recommendation for me. I think that if you're a fan of heavy metal, you'll kind of get where they went with it. You like the weird personality here. You like the fact that it's kind of bold, takes a couple of chances, some hits, some misses, but overall, I like where this band is going, and I like that they're developing a personality and not just giving you just get the same guitar texture over and over. So, pretty cool record. Some pretty big issues at the end of it for me and my taste, but if a heavy rock ballad with pianos doesn't bother you on a heavy metal record, hey, maybe it's a great record for you. So moderately high recommendation from me. You can read more in detail in the review, and listen to another song while the score posts.